welcome to You're in Detention. And today in Detention, we have got Johnny Timpson from GAIN. Welcome, Johnny.
Hello, everyone.
Nice for you to join us.
Good to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I should explain what GAIN is. GAIN is the Group for Autism, Insurance, Investment and Neurodiversity. And just the speed of getting it set up, actually, I set it up as a community interest company as opposed to a charity. But what it is a not-for-profit hub in the financial services sector. And what we set out to do is, well, first and foremost, is raise awareness in financial services of the need to support neurodivergent employees, potential employees, as first base, and second base, your customers. And so we do that, but it is a not-for-profit, and we've been up and running now for about 4 or 5 years.
Sounds good. Sounds really good. And I think it's amazing now that we're in this kind of marketplace to come across all of these organizations that are spending their time just helping like normalize neurodivergence, because I think it's just felt so so much stigma attached to it, and we obviously have left our corporate jobs to try and make people feel like it's okay to have a neurodivergent brain, whether that's autism, ADHD and all that. So excuse me, it's lovely to hear of all of the work that you guys have been doing, and it's there's a lot of it.
It's important, Joe, because we're talking about 1 in 7 consumers. One in 7 of just look around your office. 1 in 7 of your colleagues, 1 in 7 of your family and friends, 1 in 7 of your customers. So this is a big issue, and it's important that I think we've done it now. We now have removed the stigma. It's okay to hold your hand up, as I am doing right now, and say I'm autistic, and I've got traits of ADHD. I also have a physical disability as well, and it's kind of quite interesting because I work for a major insurer and part of a big major banking group that likes to be by your side. I won't name them explicitly, but you probably now know who they are. And I'm working for them. I was kind of okay talking about the fact that I had a physical disability, but culture just wasn't, and I'm not picking on them. I think culture was such in financial services that to basically for quite some time reveal that you were neurodivergent, particularly if you were autistic or had ADHD, that could be career limiting. And so I guess it's interesting because here I am. I'm 65. I've been working in life insurance predominantly for the last 40 odd years, and back in the 80s I had a chance to get to know a cardiac or a transplant surgeon and Professor Marisbana, a South African, and I went on to work with him in supporting the development of what's known as critical illness insurance. And Marius became almost like my second father, and he would he became my kind of, he'd been working with insurance people for years, but he became also my coach and mentor, if you like. And he said to me one day, he said, "Johnny, do you know that you're autistic?" So, and I was about in my 30s back then, and I didn't really know what autism was, but I just knew that I was kind of wired differently I went throughout life being told that, I wasn't a team player, and I wasn't a natural salesperson, and I could only do technical jobs, and I'm being put in boxes, put in pigeonholes, molded into roles. And when he told me that, and I kind of took me on a journey to find out what autism was, I then basically felt really comfortable actually with my skin. And I kind of realized, who I was, and this is me, and I'm never going to grow out of being autistic or having ADHD. I'm just going to grow older having autism and ADHD, just like everyone else. But as I say, it became, whilst it was okay. When I get into my 30s and 40s, it became okay to talk about physical disability, but it was only latterly towards the the end of my career with that organisation that I felt comfortable talking about the fact that I was neurodivergent, and I guess the trigger for that was that my son had some issues in his final year at schooling here in Scotland. We do these things called hires rather than A levels, and he just had a burnout. But the school didn't really realise that for what it was. But we had a really good GP who kind of understood where my son was, and said, look, uh, you know, uh, sorry, his name's Gus. Yeah, we won't mind. You won't mind. He's an advocate, so we won't mind me sharing his name. But Gus said, he said to Gus, Gus, you've got ADHD, and he worked with Gus to and we us as a family in our discussion with the school, because what we needed to do was have Gus repeat his final year at school. And initially they were not keen to do that. Then they said, okay, you can repeat the final year as an adult learner. But as an adult learner, you can only attend the classes that you're due to attend, and you cannot wear school uniform, and you cannot mix. You think, actually, if someone's got neurodivergent, that just makes things worse
Yeah.
rather than supported. So we had an interesting discussion with the school and the education authority, but we got there in the end, and he was able to rerun 6 year as a pupil and fully to participate, and he's thrived. I mean, he's now running his own fintech business. So that's just things. And I thought, well, do you know what? If that's me, and I'm in a position where I know people, in terms of in my own industry and professional bodies, and I work with politicians. And if that's me finding it difficult to kind of secure support for my son, what position is everybody else in? And I'll be honest with you, I thought, do you know what? Grow up here. I mean, you're a senior leader in your industry. It's I gave myself a very good talking to, actually. Be brave enough to basically take the mask off, explain where you are, where you're coming from, the barriers that you faced, and I basically see it as my mission and my responsibility to go out there and speak to my industry and basically say that this is me. I am neurodivergent. There are 1 in 7 of your friends, family, colleagues, and customers you deal with day in, day out, are neurodivergent. And if you're not aware of their needs and supporting them properly, that's going to be damaging to them, but it's going to be it's going to impact you and your business and your uh, as well. So I thought, right, I've got responsibility to go out there and talk about this and engage my industry and beyond, and that's exactly what I've done. And with and equally, I mean, round about the time this was all happening, I was invited by the Department of Work and Pensions to become the Disability and Access Ambassador for the insurance and industry and profession. And the remit was to improve access to products, services, and careers for people with limiting health conditions and disabilities. I extended it to bring carers into the loop as well. And subsequently, when Theresa May became Prime Minister, that role moved from the DWP into the Cabinet Office Equalities Unit, which gave me a little bit more kind of profile and oomph. And we set up a number of working groups right across the insurance sector. I had about 150 people, colleagues working with me, all pro bono, me too, on this piece of work. Um, and we also got involved in because the government were working on their disability strategy at the time, and doing some work on autism strategy as well in the background. So, giving an opportunity to input into some of that as well, but equally to take learning from that, because at that period in time, um, I mean, the epicenter of support for neurodivergent people in the workplace was the civil service. And I thought, well, great, I can take learning from the civil service back into my sector. So when I finished the cabinet office role, I had a couple of like-minded colleagues, Barbara Schonhofer and Laurie Edmonds and Stuart Pollard, and who all came from different financial services background. In fact, Stuart comes from an educational background, and we decided to do something for our industry. At that point, it was the insurance industry. So we set up Gain as a not-for-profit, and our remit was to first base, as I mentioned earlier on, to support people who are neurodivergent enter the industry, but equally realize, make the industry aware that a lot of the people that are already there are neurodivergent. We're 1 in 7 colleagues, and they are probably masking if they've not made the neurodivergence known to their line managers and colleagues. And that masking, as I know to my own detriment, is it takes a toll, doesn't it? In terms of Sometimes it can lead to anxiety and stress and stuff like this. Makes bringing your whole self far more difficult than it need otherwise be. And so that was kind of first base. But then second base was to say that, well, look, you've got a lot of colleagues who may not be neurodivergent themselves, but they may well have neurodivergent partners and children, and they equally need support too. Not just in entering the industry, but in career progression as well. And then there's the next stage, and we're embarking on this right now. Actually, we are 5-6 years in, but we're getting to it now, and that's being aware of the fact that 1 in 7 of your customers, the consumers that are out there in the marketplace, are neurodivergent. So you
Mhm.
have to tailoring your products and services and your language and your engagement strategies to meet their needs by design. And that's what we're embarking on now. In fact, we've got a discussion currently with the University of Birmingham about we're currently seeking funding for a project to look at the experiences that consumers have got in all the way through the journey in terms of accessing, realizing they've got an insurance need, accessing the information and advice they need, accessing the product service, the performance of that product and service. And so we're looking at every aspect, but having focused on insurance quite rapidly, that the remit increased to encompass the investment sector as well, and so we're now kind of very much focused on the, as I say, on the insurance investment sector, and growing. I mean, we started off just basically the four of us off the side of a desk, on a pro bono basis, and we still are working pro bono. But we've now got about 40 major funders in our industry and profession, and that gives us the wherewithal now to we've now got a funded CEO. We've got what, 4 full-time funded staff, and we've got a number of temporary funded staff, part-time funded staff as well, and we're growing by the day. So it started off small, and it's slowly but surely growing. And equally, we've been working to try and influence change. And in financial services, that means engaging with the regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, and we've done that. So from the very get go, we work with the FCA to help shape, vulnerable customer guidance, which is now getting on for nearly 4 years old now. It's just been being had a third year review, and equally the consumer duty as well. So we've got autism as part of neurodivergence as part of that agenda. But the other thing that we have been doing, I mean, having now engaged the industry, and we've spent the last couple of years working with firms large and small, and we've been trying to capture what works. And I've been familiar with the Disability Confident Programme that the DDBP run for quite some time, and for me, I've always been quite dissatisfied with it because it's been largely tick box. For being quite truthful, what it hasn't really done is captured and shared what works. So I wanted to do something about that, and in doing that, I then met Sir Robert Buckland MP, and at that point, Robert had just been given backing by the then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to set up the Buckland Review of Autism and Employment. So Robert, I'm proud to say, and thank you to him, that Robert became our honorary president, and he's got lived experience of autism, just with his a member of his family just as much as I have, and so we've supported Sir Robert's review, and that led to our kind of interfacing with the DWP, and the DWP's focus on getting Britain working and keeping Britain working. And so where we are today, we now have regular updates with DWP, and we've been supporting the work of the Sir Charlie Mayfield um, uh, Keep Britain Working review, which was launched on the 5th of November. And it's actually quite interesting because, I mean, if I was to look back at where we were 5 and 6 years ago, the insurance industry were light years behind the civil service and the banking sector in terms of neurodivergence awareness and activity. Now, I think we're up there with the best, not just in the UK, but globally as well, just by having a community of firms and community of neurodivergent colleagues across the industry that just regularly get together, share what's working, what's not working, capturing that for the benefit of all, and as I say, feeding that into DWP for the
Yeah.
benefit of other sectors. So that's kind of where we are, and I'm quite pleased at lots more to do. Don't get me wrong, but we, I think we've come a long year in 5-6 years.
Yeah, it's amazing progress, isn't it? And I think the challenge is like even industries are far more aware of it now. And it's how do they create that like psychological safety for people to come out and talk about it? Because I think when I had my own diagnosis, it took me about a year to be able to kind of process that, understand what it means, go through it past everyone saying that, oh yeah, what you wanted a label, all the things that you go through and all of people's views, of course. Um, but there's so many people that I know that are neurodivergent in the financial services industry that will not talk about it. They just won't talk about it. So there's so much, the stuff that you're doing is so important. And obviously that's why we left our corporate jobs in financial services to do exactly the same thing, to show that, look, we were very successful. And also to show that how neurotypical and neurodivergent minds work together, because Kerry's neurotypical mind is neurodivergent, and we're obviously a good mix. But what's your view, Johnny, on the latest kind of headlines that have been across over the last 10 days about overdiagnosis of autism, ADHD, particularly ADHD, I think?
Well, I mean, it's quite disappointing, isn't it, when you read that sort of thing? I mean, apart from the work that I've done as a disability ambassador for I mentioned it was originally the insurance sector, but that my cabinet office role extended to encompass the banking and the investment sector. So ultimately, I became the cabinet office disability ambassador for the whole of the financial services sector, and kind of looking at that experience, my own experience of being someone that's that has got a physical and disability and is also neurodivergent. And the fact that I'm a trustee of a couple of charities supporting disabled and neurodivergent people, particularly children. Um, equally, when I finished the cabinet office role, I did so. I was asked invited to join the University of Edinburgh Business School supporting healthy aging at work program, and that was kind of quite enlightening because what that revealed is that there are far more neurodivergent people out there than we recognise, simply
Mhm.
because people are um, are, are masking. But it's a and but the big I guess uh, uh, up until recently undiagnosed issue was the number of um, um, women in midlife who are who are who are working successfully in supporting economy. It's the fastest growing segment of our economy. A lot of those women are maybe perimenopausal, menopausal, and and they'll tell you they've got fuzzy minds. And there's a phrase that often comes up, and that's basically and often feel anxious as well. And it's been quite interesting that's too often. I've spoken to psychologists about this and the colleagues working as part of this University of Edinburgh project, and all too often that's been diagnosed as and dismissed as a menopausal issue. The
Mhm.
reality is that as we're now seeing in a lot of cases, what it is undiagnosed ADHD and/or autism, and invariably the trigger, just as in my case actually, for getting a medical diagnosis is the fact that it, that person's child has been diagnosed, and that the child's diagnosis basically putting the parent on a pathway to realise that, do you know what, that's me. And
Yeah.
I think that's that's one of the reasons now that there is this that there has been an uptake. The fact that increasingly now we're seeing schools are far more aware of neurodivergence. GPs are, because of the focus within the NHS, are far more aware as well. And what previously was dismissed as as anxiety
Yeah.
or dismissed as a menopausal related issue is now being diagnosed properly and supported
Mhm.
properly. as neurodivergence, and
Yeah.
that can only be good, can't it? If people understand that this isn't you're not on your own. It's not a random. It's not a medical condition that can that's going to disappear overnight. This is just how you're wired. It's how you think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so start to feel comfortable with that, and let's and if you once you start to feel comfortable, maybe stop demasking. If you stop demasking, life, believe me, life becomes a lot easier,
It
um,
does.
because you don't have to pretend to be someone else. You can, I just explain to people, this is who I am, um, and don't need to treat me any differently to anybody else. But this is what I like and what I don't like, and making adjustments within workplaces as well. I mean, it's some of the things that we've done within Gain. I mean, we work with a number of large insurers to do sensory mapping of offices. So, parts of the office where there's natural daylight, there isn't garish colours on walls or posters. Um, there isn't the noise or smells of people eating. Um, uh, you know, s- Places where there isn't any continuous background hum of air conditioning and things like this. So you can actually
Right.
hear yourself think. Um, and it's actually quite interesting because whilst that's these are things that really work well for neurodivergent colleagues. But interestingly, when you speak to people with other that are dealing with other issues, and I've spoken to women that are perimenopausal, menopausal as part of my supporting healthy aging work. You know, that's the kind of working environment that they like as well. And having spoken to a number of younger colleagues, that are going through pregnancy, and they're saying, "Do you know what? I quite look. Well, I don't like to work in spaces where there's the smell of food. It just doesn't work for me." And so sensory mapping it's like a lot of things. The interventions that you put in place to support neurodivergent colleagues and customers. They're drop curves, aren't they? You put them in place, and you suddenly find that a much wider audience of people benefit. One of the things that irritates me, is when I go to large gatherings and conferences, and people are presenting on a stage, and invariably, there's always just the hub of other people talking around about you, isn't there? And then you've got the air conditioning overlays on top of that,
Yeah.
and you struggle sometimes to hear the detail of what people are
Yeah.
saying. So basically, great. Why not? When the presenter's speaking, you've got the slides up. Just put a caption along the bottom. Their speech, their words as they make them, and that makes such a difference. And having started, that in events that I started going to. Now I won't present at a conference unless I'm adamant now. I'm not a diva or anything, but you know, I, I've got some golden rules. That I only take part in panels if they're gender balanced. I won't attend events if there's not disability access, and I won't get involved in presentations if there's not encapsulating what the speakers are saying, because I've seen, I've had so many colleagues who've got maybe hearing loss issues or sight loss issues, who've basically said, kind of, we really value
Yeah.
that as well. So you get it
Well,
right.
it's standards though, isn't it, Johnny? It's standards, and if you if you put those down as basic standards, everyone starts to believe that they're the right. That's the minimum standards of what should be expected.
Yeah, yeah,
It is really sad, reading those headlines over the last few weeks because I think it almost undermines the journey that people are going on and makes other people go, "Oh, everyone's got ADHD now, haven't they?" And I think, like, when I had my diagnosis, it was just like putting a pair of glasses on for the first time, and I could suddenly go, "Oh, right, okay. Now I understand, like, the previous 47 years and all the reasons why that I did things and things didn't work out, or they did work out, or they're brilliant." But like, it's allowed me now to kind of go, right, okay, I celebrate having ADHD. I am here because of my ADHD, not despite it. And like, I feel like really confident and comfortable about it. But it's how getting people to feel that confidence and trying to get organizations to understand the value that they get from embracing neurodivergence in their organization is huge. Like, innovation, You know, I mean, if you look at Google, I think we had Gerard on last week, wasn't it, Kerry? He
Yeah.
was talking about Google recruiting neurodivergent employees into its workforce. I think he said all of them, but if not the majority. And they're one of the leading companies for innovation and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, this is really basic. It's really basic, isn't it? Just let people work in an environment that suits them, let them demask, and that's okay. And then you get the best out of them. And they feel like they can bring them genuine selves to work.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, because when one of my a couple of day jobs, and one of them is I chair an insurance company that specialises in supporting armed forces and veterans, and we're
Mhm.
partnered with a number of armed forces and veterans charities. Um, but last year I was down at an event. It was a big military skills competition, and there were teams from all different units in the British Army, but about 1,000 people on this big uh, uh, field in front of us, and they were doing all sorts of different um, skills tests. And I was standing next to this very senior officer, and he was saying, and he was aware of the work I've been doing with Gain, from LinkedIn and things like this. And he said, Johnny, he said, just about, when we were looking down on this, it was about 1,000 people. He said, Johnny, just about everyone you can see there has got ADHD. And so the armed forces are great for supporting people with ADHD
Yeah.
because they're kept busy the entire time.
Yeah.
There's lots of
Absolutely.
challenges that they can get tucked into, and there's lots of sporting activity available to people where they can, they can, if they've got if they need to get some energy they need to work off, they can go and do that. And he said, but the problem that we have is when people leave and transition into civilian life, and
Yeah.
in too many sectors, there's no screening for ADHD, no awareness, and that causes people problems in a lot of instances, making that leap from the armed
Yeah.
forces
Mhm.
into civilian roles across a number of sectors. Um, and in fact, that's one of the things equally I've been trying to extend our reach with Gain to work with other sectors to raise
Yeah.
awareness of that very issue. But yeah, I mean, it's a real live issue, and we do need to raise awareness. I'm very hopeful that the work that the DWP are doing now with the Charlie Mayfield review of Get Britain Working, Keep Britain Working, um, will start really to get some focus from government, ensuring that awareness in workplaces is where it needs to be, and people are getting the requisite support that they require. I mean, in another role, I'm chairman, I'm patron of the Vocational Rehabilitation Association. They're basically uh, professionals that support people. Um, well, they work with companies and employees to get culture right, so people don't fall out of workplace to begin with. But where they do because of a health event or acquired disability, make sure that people get the support to rehab back as soon as possible. And
Yeah.
and certainly, and it's great to see that my colleagues in the vocational rehabilitation sector are very alive to the support needs of neurodivergent people and working with employers to raise awareness. And that's important because Charlie Mayfield is in part of his government review. He's now basically stressing the importance of vocational rehabilitation to employers. So, if we get improve employer access to that type of support, that
Mhm.
can only be good for everybody, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of people you see that are in performance plans because they're in a role that doesn't suit them, and it's a really like repetitive role, and it doesn't give them any interest and stuff like that. So they're in a performance plan, but actually, if you took that person, if you understood how their minds worked and where their kind of strengths were, which is why when Messy Minds was created to try and help people understand. Look, this is we're looking at this from a positive lens. We're not looking at it through a woe is me. Like it's hard, but once you understand yourself, it actually gets easier as long as you are prepared to like openly talk about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're absolutely right, Joe. I mean, I think and it brings me back to I think the responsibility of senior leaders. Um,
Mhm.
and I make this ask if anybody who's in a senior leadership position is watching today. Um, if you do have a physical disability, or you've be it seen or unseen, or you and or you're neurodivergent, if you feel comfortable be open about it and talk about it. And I do. I mean, I make the point that, here I am, I've got a physical disability, I'm neurodivergent, but it doesn't stop me chairing two companies and a think tank, or being a trustee of three different charities. I'm very, very conscious, because I do work with disability and autistic charities, that we are talking about people on the spectrum, and there are some people out there with profound needs, and
Oh, yeah,
day in their
absolutely. Yes.
lives who require support. And I think it's
Yeah.
important that we work together to ensure that they get that support.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of hence why, going back to gay and again, that having another focus on supporting people that have got neurodivergent partners and children is important.
Yeah, Kerry and I have been talking about the. We have a lot of, well, too many years to count of experience in financial services, and there's between us on this call, it must be terrifying the amount of years we've got talking about it. But like we were talking about exactly the same as you've said, neurodivergent clients. How are financial advisors and able to reach and motivate people that are neurodivergent? Because if I think of it from my kind of ADHD, talking about things in financial services, talking about pensions and ISAs and things like that, it kind of just, it's all the kind of areas that I absolutely find so boring. I mean, I've worked in that industry for years and years and years, and that's part of it, talking about pensions and things, but talking about goals and how to achieve those goals via, the talk, framing it in a different way, in a way that's kind of motivational, in a way that's life goals, in a way that helps your family, is a really different way of spinning it, more like coaching than it is let's review your pension, let's review your investments. I go through the reviews, and for half the meeting I'm probably checked out, because I'm thinking, right, and I know this now, but actually reframing that conversation into a motivational kind of like, what do you want to do, what do you want to achieve, and making it more interactive and coaching style. It's got to be a way forward with neurodivergent like people.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think that's why. And what we've been doing within GAIN in our sector is encouraging those companies that are large enough to have these employee support groups for focused on neurodivergent colleagues and those with neurodivergent partners and children. But I'm very conscious, actually. I mean, a lot of we've got a lot of small advisory firms in UK financial services with 20 staff or less. So having an employee support group is not feasible for them. But what we've done within GAIN is that we have got a kind of big virtual generic employee support group. So we run regular coffee mornings every couple of weeks, and anybody can come along. Do you know what? You don't even need to be in financial services. Just go into look at our website, gaintogether.org. Just book into one session. They're all free, and come along, take part. And if you want to present, you bid for a presenting slot and go and present. And we regularly have quite big audiences attending those, and that's working quite well.
Yeah, they sound really good.
That's brilliant, and I think it's bringing that attention. The more attention, the more it's talked about, the more the stigma reduces. And I think everything that's been in the press over the last 10 days or so isn't helpful, but it does keep that conversation alive. And I think the more people can talk about it, like we're doing now, super positively, and everything that's being done, I think the more the better.
Yeah, I'd agree, Kerry, and I think equally that's important in terms of, what's the best role for you and where do you want to go in your career. It's taken us. I mean, we're as I say, we're now 5 years into GAIN, and it's taken a bit of time. But we've now, what we've done. We did it about 6 months ago. Actually, we launched our jobs club. So what we've got the 40 plus now supporting firms, and they're now basically posting any vacancies that they think are suitable for neurodivergent people on our jobs board. So again, anyone out there who's thinking, where do I go next? What's the right role for me? Just drop into our website and check it. We update the jobs board every week. Go and see what's there. And I hope as I say, we're up to about, by and large, we've got about 40 vacancies every week now, and hoping to grow that as we go forward.
Brilliant.
That's amazing. We'll have to link that into the we'll link it into the description that we put below the podcast, Johnny, just so people can have a look at that. And we'll also put a link to your coffee mornings and things like that, because I think people would be really interested in.
And it's,
We'll definitely.
and these are vacancies around the UK as well, so it's not just London. So
yeah, that's brilliant. It's really good. I think though it's so nice that also what I've really noticed in the industry that we're now in is that, like, competition that you would get in a kind of a normal in a normal sector, people are very willing to like work together, even though they've got identical business models and they are competitors of each other, are really happy to work together, because I think, look, all of us are looking for the same outcome here. And of course, all our businesses need to be successful. And I know yours is an organisation not for profit, but all of us working together is going to make, neurodivergence the next big thing. And I really think in business, if you can you understand and get your business into neurodivergent kind of in a way that you're ready and you're ahead of the game. Because I think, like we've seen with where bubbles have burst in businesses over the last few years, particularly with the LGBTQ community, and then we've got, obviously there's been a big focus on psychological safety, but neurodivergence, if companies can get their head around that and understand how to make people feel part of it and thrive in their organizations, I honestly think they're really kind of going to get ahead of the game with it.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I mean, and certainly, I'm involved in a number of professional bodies, and indeed, we've got a livery company. We worship a company of insurers, and one big focus area for us is attracting talent to the industry. So I firmly, my mission is to make the insurance investment sector in the UK, irrespective of where you're living, I'd like us to be a career destination of choice for neurodivergent people. So what we've been doing small scale at Gain is, we've been working principally actually with the University of Bath at trying to reach out to attract, basically saying to neurodivergent students, particularly those in their final years, think about this as a career choice. We're neurodivergent aware now. It's a good place to be. I'm currently bidding for grant funding because I'd like to, that was a bit of a pilot, really, a test and learn. But we know what works now with engaging universities and colleges. So the next mission I'm on now is getting some grant funding. It's not my mission; it's one that I share with my 12 colleagues. What we're all about now is can we reach out to more universities and colleges across the UK. So we're pushing quite hard at that.
It's really interesting you say that, though, because obviously my career in financial services was about 27 years in total before we've moved out to do this. But if you had asked me what I wanted to do when I left school, I wouldn't have been saying, "Oh, I want to go into wealth management and in financial planning." That would have been somewhere completely off my radar, and it was accidental. And I think almost everyone that I kind of spoke to that worked with me or has accidentally got into financial services. I'm fairly sure, Kerry, that was the way you got into financial
100%.
services.
Yeah.
So to hear that you're looking at actually a more purposeful route into that industry for neurodivergence is brilliant. But I hadn't woke up and thought, I tell you what, I'm going to go and get a job in financial services at all. It was it's just one of those things that's happened, and there you are, nearly 3 decades later, still working in it, and
Yeah.
we're still close to working it now with Messy Mind.
Well, and it needs to be more than just looking at graduates, isn't it? And so what we're doing some work currently with the professional body in the insurance industry, which is the Chartered Insurance Institute. So we're looking at developing. We've had some neurodivergent guidance out there for a couple of years. But we want to kind of revisit that, in fact, and invest in it to raise its profile and the scope of material available to support firms. But particular objectives of ours are to kind of look at how can we ensure that we're bringing more neurodivergent talent into apprenticeship schemes or returner schemes. And just general work experience programs as well. So these are things that we're all working on at the minute. it's taken us a while to get here, but we're on a journey.
Yeah, I think the neurodivergents inherently struggle with school, and I left school at 16. And actually, I wouldn't have done anything any different if I'd left now, because it just wasn't the right environment for me to learn. And one of my, it's a real frustration of mine that I think children that don't go on to then do A levels are almost written off by organisations, and we have so much talent in that school leavers from 16 that want apprenticeships. There's so much raw talent, and also willingness to learn, and just that hunger to do well and prove that they can do well. And I don't think there's just enough organizations. There's the apprenticeships when you leave A levels, there's graduate schemes when you're a graduate, but there is a pocket of school leavers, and I was one of them, that came out of school with something to prove, because I felt terrible all through school. I felt like I was useless and I just didn't fit in. But then when I got into the workplace, when I found the right job for me, I just excelled and kept excelling. So I think that's, that how do we create opportunities for those people that have just come out of school with such low confidence, because they've got so much to offer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's very much part of the work that we're doing with the professional body, just to getting particularly those work experience programs, because that's where they're going to hit our industry first. And if we can get that right, and then basically put people on a pathway to an apprenticeship program, then
Yes.
that's fabulous. And that's if we're working on this guidance now, so hopefully some point in the new year, well, in probably more mid 2026, we'll have that ready to go. We've made some progress, but yeah, more to do.
That's brilliant.
To me. Brilliant. Well, we've really, really enjoyed having you on. You're in detention. We haven't actually asked you, Johnny, if you were in detention at any time at school. We can't let you go before we've asked you that question.
Well, let me into a secret. So I went to it was an abbey school, it was a religious school, an abbey school. I was taught by monks. It was all boys, and discipline was very much a thing. Still got painful memories, but no, I mean, I guess I did reach the dizzy heights of being a prefect at one point. So I was I was never really in detention, but I probably should have been. And let me own it. Here we are, nearly 50 years later, and my school no longer exists, so I can share this now. But I remember there was once this big religious statue in what was the prefect's room, and it had been pouring rain one day, and I came in, and I just, as you do, this statue that gets hands out like this in a sort of religious pose, and I hooked my umbrella over the hands of our dear Lord, and his arm fell off. And so I thinking, oh my word, how are you going to sort this quite quickly? So it was a case of lots of chewing gum, always glue the hand back on, which kind of, and I got away with it. It worked well. I was in the classroom next door, and and about half an hour, because it was winter, it was bad weather, the heating was on. Eventually, the chewing gum dried out, and the arm fell off. Much to the shock and horror of the monk that was reading the clip. However, and there was a big inquiry, but no one gave me up. So
no, excellent.
So it was a near miss.
Did you have to do your best face?
Absolutely. And tried to avoid laughing as well. Actually, I mean,
yeah. Well, do you know what? That's one of the things that's always got me into trouble. When someone says, "Do you think it's funny?" Well, if I didn't think it was funny before, now I absolutely do. I do find, like, serious situations or anything official, like where you shouldn't be laughing. I don't know what it is, just this built-in self-destruct button that just goes, I'll tell you what would be good now. Why don't you just burst out laughing? Oh dear. No, that's well. Thank you for sharing. I feel like we're in confessions now. I mean, maybe
that should be a new slot in your.
You've heard it here first. Yeah, exactly. Well, we appreciate you sharing that. That's made
Yeah.
my day anyway, listening to that. But we definitely would love you to come and join us again, Johnny, and give us an update on all the things that you're working on. I mean, I don't know how you've had time to join us because you seem like you've got so much on. But do you know what? It's absolutely brilliant to hear all the stuff that you're working on and the good work that you're doing. And if we can be of any help in any of it, obviously with Messy Minds, we would be delighted to
Well, I mean,
have him.
be delighted to, because as I say, we're a hub. So what we're doing is we're taking firms on a journey. We make them aware of neurodiversity. Then we basically, once they think, they say, this is something that we want to commit to. Well, then it's a case of saying, right, well, where do you want? It's great, you're committing, but where do you want to get to? And it's basically planning the journey. So what's it going to take to get you there? How are we going to measure progress? Because you're not going to get there all at once. And having done all that and benchmarked where they are to start off with, because we've got a benchmarking process, it's then a case of we work with organisations such as yours and others, and we basically say to organisations, well, this part in your journey, this is a consultancy or a charity that's got a track record of supporting organisations such as yours, and it's a bit, we just make that connection, if you like, and introduce them to each other, and that's basically what we're all about.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, genius. Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you so much. I'm hoping you can't hear the lashing rain on my window here, because all I can hear is really loud rain. So I'm hoping Reese isn't going to tell me off when I go and end this recording. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Johnny, and we'll definitely love to have you back on the podcast to get some updates. And but yes, thank you all for watching this episode of You're in Detention. If you like, to give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to tell all your friends and family about it, because someone might really appreciate hearing the stories that we tell on these episodes. So thank you once again, Johnny, and we look forward to you joining us again in the future episodes.
Well, on behalf of myself and all of us at Gain, thank you for having us. Good to meet you all.
Thank you.